is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 383 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Renee Warren, and we're going to be diving into techniques that build authority to position you as the industry leader. This is a conversation that you are not going to want to miss. Renee's energy that she brings to this topic is amazing. Plus, she takes it from a standpoint of building authority as well as your SEO and the authority that's going to come from that. So make sure that you definitely jump in. Before you do that, I want to make sure that if you haven't already become an insider, that you take advantage of the 40% off discount that we are offering you. As an insider, you are getting weekly strategy trainings as well as a monthly group coaching call so that you can ask all the questions that you have. It gives you the accountability so that you stop spinning your wheels and not knowing how to move forward in treating your blog like a business. It's time that you treat it like the business that you want it to be. Make sure that you take advantage of the discount that we are offering. You can go to the show notes and just jump right in and get signed up. So let's jump in to this episode. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Well, it's nice seeing you again.
Yes, I am so excited about this conversation. I think that the energy that you bring to any topic is just going to just make it that much better. So before we actually jump into the topic of building authority, can you introduce yourself and your business to my audience?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Renee Warren, the founder of a company called We Wild Women, where we help female entrepreneurs like Jenny position themselves as the authority in their industry by way of public relations. I've been in the industry for about 12 years now. So I've seen the changes and the things that are happening, and I still love it. How we approach PR is very unique as we kind of go with the times, kind of like how the blogging world has changed too. And you have to be adaptive. And so I absolutely thrive in writing killer pitches. I could spend all day writing pitch angles and creating procedures and processes for PR. That's my jam. That's what gets me up at 5 a.m. every single day.
For those wondering why she's bringing up the 5 a.m., it's because it is very early where she is right now. She's 3 hours behind me. So, and I said, you look amazing as always, and ready to go. And she's like, yep, we're up at 5 a.m.
Yep. I remember seeing the time for this recording. I was like, oh, that's a normal time. Now, any later, it wouldn't have worked because I have to do the kid thing, bring them to school, but this is perfect.
Yeah, I love it. Very good. All right. So let's start off really basic. What is authority?
Ooh, okay. So authority, to be the authority in your space is to be the person who sets the standard in your industry and becomes the person that everyone calls to for advice on a particular subject.
Oh, so good. It's that expert, right? It's that person that they are immediately going to feel connected to and want to get more information from.
100%. Like, think about who would be the best couples therapist. There's probably a few. I think of like Esther Perel. Then you think of who's the best person to chat to about growing my blog. Well, it would be you, Jenny. And do you think of anything like who would be the best person to hire to redecorate your office? Well, there's probably somebody in the industry. So how these people created that authority was repetition, consistency, talking about the same content over and over again to the point where it's almost boring. Well, boring for them, maybe. And that's what helps you build the authority. And we can talk all about this too as we go through one of my frameworks.
All right, perfect. So let's actually just jump right into that. How do you actually build authority?
So I have a framework called the authority arc, and there's 3 components to it. The first part is how you are rare. The second part is how you build your reputation. And the third part of it is how you amplify your reach. So reach, reputation, rare, reputation, and reach. So when you talk about being rare, you think about a diamond. And I like to use the example of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Because the story goes with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was Willy Wonka, who has the chocolate factory, never allowed anybody to go inside and tour the factory. He was so worried that someone would steal his recipe. Well, he wanted to generate more buzz about his chocolate. So he created a really cool contest where he distributed something like 6 gold bars. So essentially, there were 6 chocolate bars that were wrapped in gold, which was your ticket to go and get a tour of the chocolate factory. So that was like a coveted ticket. Everybody wanted that, and it was rare. So people would go through like the ringer. They would go the extra mile just to get that golden ticket. So when you think about how you can be rare, there's 3 components to it. What is your unique positioning? How are you different? And then how are you unforgettable? Maybe it's the hero's journey. Maybe you have a really incredible journey from like rags to riches, or you're a breast cancer survivor and something happened along the journey that allowed you to just become this beacon in the industry. And then the last part of it is you're unlike anyone else. So I've been on several podcasts who've had other publicists on before, and I show up with a different energy. I show up with a different framework. So I'm unlike anyone else because how I do it is different and what I teach is different. So that's rare. Then we go to reputation. So especially when it comes to PR, it's all about building trust. So Jenny, you probably get pitched a lot to have guests on your show, and there's some pitches that come in that were probably good, mediocre at best. But then when you click through to their profile, maybe we'll say Instagram, you get a sense of who this person is and you like them because they exude trust, and then they become a guest on your show. So the other thing in reputation is you set a standard. So you're setting a standard for your slice of the internet, whatever that is. And then the last part of that is nurturing relationships, which is so key when it comes to PR. Actually, just before we pressed record, I opened up my inbox and one of my clients got accepted to be in USA Today. And that's like a pretty big win. But that wasn't because I just started yesterday. That was because I nurtured these relationships over the course of months, if not years. And not to discourage anybody that's getting into PR or trying to pitch themselves or even want to potentially hire me, it does take time. PR is a long-term, long-tail approach. If you want immediate results, you run ads. We know this in the blogging world. You can't just start a blog and everyone's coming. You got to be refining, tweaking, publishing. Like there's a framework and a format to follow. So the last part of it is the reach. And this is where it kind of gets more systematized. So the first part of it is systems and process. When you think about amplifying your reach on social, it's all about the type of content you share, how often you share it. And if you look at anybody doing it successfully, they have a process behind the scenes that allow them to create killer content. And then even in the blogging world, you'll know there's some framework and formula for publishing content, how often, how long, and there has to be a system and a procedure behind it in order to do it successfully. Now, when it comes to PR, this is about creating that strategy. And so you need to understand, first off, what is the goal of doing this? Why are you doing it? A lot of people are just like, well, I just want to be on some podcasts and a couple publications. That alone can take months. That takes a lot of time. So when you're not really understanding the goal and the purpose of PR, you will give up way too soon. And the last most important thing about reach is consistency. I always say consistency is your currency and it is your grit factor. Think about it. Running a podcast, I don't know how many times I've wanted to throw in the towel. Like, I'm done, right? You're on episode what? Like almost 400?
383, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm sure there were days where you're like, who do I interview or what do I talk about? And you've probably wanted to just quit or take a break. But the people that keep pursuing that grit factor, they show up because they know they have an important message to share. They have a community that is relying on them. They're relying on you, Jenny, to be publishing these episodes because they count on that content. Even if they've never met you before, they feel like they know you. They're sitting in their car driving their kids to school and they're listening to these conversations. The grit factor and showing up. So those three things, rare, reputation, reach, create the authority arc. And when you can plug into that formula, it is a lot, I want to say, easier to create authority in your industry.
So you said to me yesterday, because I was on your podcast yesterday, which you all need to make sure you go over and listen to that episode for Renee. It's We Wild Women. It's the name of the podcast.
Into the Wild.
Sorry, say that again.
Into the Wild.
Into the Wild. I'm seeing the
I know so that's the name of my company. I have neon lights behind me. It says We Wild Women. I actually because you're not the first person who's done this. I actually contacted the company who created the lights to actually create the Into the Wild lights for me.
Yes, I love that. Okay. So when we did the interview yesterday, you mentioned to me afterwards, you're like, there's so much overlap between PR and what I teach as far as like pitching to sponsors. So a lot of my listeners are probably hearing the connections. It's that positioning piece, really trying to figure out how you are unique and then being able to make those connections and those collaborations. I think there's just so much overlap. So for those of you that are listening that have either gone through my program or listened to me talk about sponsorships, you need to start to really think about how you can utilize PR in the same way that you are pitching and reaching out to brands for sponsorships. So what are some of the authority building techniques that we can put into place? And I definitely am going to go to the why piece of, because you mentioned that. Actually, you know what? Let's start right there. Because you mentioned you have to know why you are doing this. What's the purpose behind it? And I think, like you said, you don't want to just get onto some podcasts. What's the purpose behind reaching out and trying to get PR?
So the purpose of doing PR is to become like the household name. It's still to this day one of the most trusted forms of marketing and media. So, I mean, you can, if you run ads, don't get me wrong, ads work. We know this. But there has to be a formula and a goal behind it as well. But with ads, you'll know within a few hours, a few days, if they're working, if they're getting clicks and with the cost per click and impressions and all this stuff. With PR, you don't know. However, the moment you get mentioned in Forbes or Business Insider or on USA Today, all of a sudden now it's like this credibility piece. Like if that publication is mentioning this person, quoting this person, then they gotta be real. They probably have something smart to say or they have a really great story. So it's definitely a credibility piece and it's all leverage. It plays on each other. So for instance, say you have a really decent following on social media, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, that is leverage to pitch the media. And then vice versa. So the more, like say you have a decent following, the media wants to talk to you, but whatever reason you share it on social, now it's like the credibility builder. So it all plays together, even content marketing. So we've built this engine called the PR engine, where it's like how social media, content marketing, and PR plug in together and they create the most beautiful system. And why is that? Because what you do and what you do have a massive overlap. And we know this because of pitching, but also because of the SEO factor of PR. And most people forget that. Here's how this works is when you go and Google certain keywords, typically the content that performs the best are from notable publications. And to see somebody's name in that publication, like Forbes, adds that credibility. But now Google will say, oh, geez, Forbes is connecting to this website. They're linking to this website. So then it gives you what I call Google juice for your own website. So then it helps to rank your website. And one of the only ways to be able to connect bigger publications to yours is through PR. And it's like training for a marathon. You're not going to go out and run the full, 40K or 42K. You start with 3 kilometers. 1 week, the next week, maybe 4. And you keep adding the distance as it becomes easier. It's the same thing with PR, same thing with pitching, is you just keep adding to it. And it's like this engine that keeps going. You keep adding the fuel. So this USA Today opportunity that I landed for a client, we started working together in September. So this was like October, November, December, January. That was 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. And this is why people question PR people. And I totally get it because listen, I have hired my VA to do my pitching and I know that it's long lead times, but it just takes time. So when you're working with somebody in the industry, when they say it's at least a 6-month to 12-month agreement, the first couple of months, they're like, where are the wins? It's because the pitches are just going out and the follow-ups are just happening. And that's eventually when the momentum starts. So, and then going back to the question about, what was it about building authority?
Purpose. Yes.
Purpose. And the why. Let me tell you, the moment you land on your why, or you know that your purpose for what you do, makes everything else easier. I have people that show up like, oh, I just want to sell a bunch of my programs, or I want to speak on more stages, but they're not connected to their why. It looks disingenuous. It looks inauthentic, and people can see through that. So that comes back to the reputation part of the authority arc.
Yes.
So,
so the fact that you brought up the SEO, I've had people come onto the podcast, and I think that's why I felt so connected to you, is because you understand the backlinks, the Google juice that we're going to get from that. And I think that that's the piece that a lot of people miss, is they are only trying to get their name into, USA Today because they just want to be able to sell their product and they think they're going to be able to do it from that article. When in reality, it's going to take a little bit of time. You get the Google juice, they then are able to find you and learn more about you and hopefully get onto your email list and start to engage with them so that then you can sell your product, your service, whatever it is that you offer. Yeah. It's all about, again, building that authority with others like you talk about, and then getting that backlink. And it does give that Google juice. It's what bloggers are continually trying to get. You get onto a site that has a higher domain authority that's going to be able to give you that Google juice back to you.
Right. And it's stickier than anything else by way of social media posts are fleeting. Unless they randomly start to go viral, which happened to me. I had a post about getting sued for wrongful dismissal. I'm laughing because I'm really over the emotion of it. And this was years ago. And I made a random 10-second reel, and it started with a couple thousand views. And then it wasn't maybe 2 months later, I checked it randomly and it was 75,000. And the next day it was 95,000. And it went all the way up to 250,000 views. Now that's a rare occurrence and we all wish that would happen. Yes. But the social media part is fleeting. It's very helpful. Blog posts also fleeting unless they're ranking. But the thing about PR is it has a stickiness. You could put on your website as featured in Forbes, even if that was 5 years ago.
Right.
And I just hope you link to the article if you do that on your website, please. That adds the credibility because it's so easy to just put as featured in. When you actually link to the publication, that matters. And so it has that long tail stickiness where people can search that article and it keeps coming up, or you can keep referring to it. You can keep saying, hey, it was featured in Forbes or it was quoted, blah, blah, blah. I was on daytime television. It's important.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about the actual benefits that you are going to get from building your authority with PR.
Yeah. Well, as we alluded to earlier, you become the go-to expert in your industry. You think about anybody. So say you wanted to hire a publicist. Well, you would consider me because I'm doing this podcast. I pitch myself to be in the media as well. I mean, it's only natural that you would drink your own Kool-Aid. But that's for a lot of people now, it's they reach out to me. Renee's the go-to person because I keep putting myself out there. And I keep sharing really great content, all this sneaky stuff. I have freebies on my website. You go and download it. You can do your own PR. I give it all away. And that helps with the trust factor. Renee really knows what she's talking about and actually love her content. And this thing that she shared actually helped me get a win.
Right.
It can, for instance, allow you to charge more for speaking fees. If you become that go-to in your space, if you become a New York Times bestseller, your keynote talks now automatically go up. You can charge more for your programs and your services. If you're the go-to fitness expert, everyone wants to hire you. You can charge anything you want within reason. It's one tool that will not be affected by the economy. So you think about that. Your reputation cannot be affected by the economy. So we're right now going through some weird times with the economy. We don't know what's happening. There's always the doom predictions, and we don't know what's happening. Some people say we're coming out of this recession now because, well, last night or 2 nights ago, we had dinner with one of our real estate agents, and he's like, yeah, housing prices are starting to come up again, which is an indication. However, it'll stay at that way for a little bit because of interest rates. We're just got to figure stuff out. However, despite all that stuff, if you're the go-to expert in the industry, the economy won't matter because you're still going to be that authority.
Right.
And along those lines, if you're listed as one of the top 10 experts, people pay attention, right? So you think about, you want to learn anything about like neuroscience, you're probably going to go and listen to Huberman. And Dr. Attia is really good and talks about Medicine 3.0. So these are people that are constantly talking about the same type of content with conviction, and they go deep on that content all the time publicly. They become that expert. Like I think most important thing is that it really helps amplify your reach, but it really helps you maintain that reputation.
Hey there, guys. My name is Melanie from Mostly Under Control, and I am a member of Jenny's Influencer Entrepreneurs Insiders membership. I've been a part of it since 2017, and over these 6 years, I've taken full advantage of the weekly trainings that Jenny offers and the monthly group coaching. The group coaching is probably my favorite part of the membership. Jenny has taught me so many things for my business. She helped me niche down and write and teach about what I wanted so that I wouldn't burn out. In addition to what she teaches, the networking I've done with other members has been invaluable. I recommend her membership to all of my online business owner friends because it is worth every single penny.
So, what are the biggest mistakes you see that are being made when trying to build authority?
People give up way too soon.
Such an overlap with pitching. It's the same thing when reaching out to brands for sponsorships. Same exact thing. And even blogging, it's the same thing. They just give up.
Totally. So you say, because we talked about this yesterday, that you say, was it like you pitch at least 5 times, or you follow up with 5 times with,
Yeah.
okay.
3 to 5
Which
times.
seems kind of nauseating.
Yep.
Well, in the PR world, we don't follow up that much, but you still follow up. And there's like a cadence of like, if you're pitching podcasts, you follow up 2 weeks, and then 4 weeks later, there's formulas for this. But people just give up. They think, oh, my pitch is crap, or I'm not worth it, or they don't. If you don't hear back, it means you're still good to go. And
Right.
if you see maybe the email's been open, there's some intrigue. Now, if the email's been open and things have been clicked through, then they're interested in a way. And you got to keep following up, not to the point of annoyance, like be very respectful. But a lot of times people just miss the communication. So they give up too soon. The other thing is they just talk about way too many things. Like they talk about PR, and then they talk about life coaching, and they talk about fashion. And it's like, what do you stand for? What is it? Narrow it down. You have different content pillars. I know with my content, I get more reach when I talk about stuff with my husband and our couples stuff because he has a gigantic following. That makes sense. However, that's not just what I do. I'm also a parent, and I do PR. And then so they're not consistent. They give up too soon. They're not niche enough. And they just change direction too often. Like, I want to talk about this thing, or they're launching another new program, or they just get busy doing like different types of master classes or different types of webinars or going in different types of summits. And they're actually not allowing themselves to say no to opportunities, because then it just muddies the water. And I've done this too. And I know this firsthand now. I was in so many summits last year. I spoke in so many summits to the point where it was just too much, that I actually, like previously, when I spoke in master classes or summits, I'd always get a client or 2. And then as of late, there's just so many of them, it just got diluted. And knowing this, I stopped doing it. And so I need to focus back on the thing that I do really well with my clients and promoting myself. So it all comes back down to honing that focus and thinking about your why, and really what's the purpose of the PR behind you, and like why do you need this for your brand or for your business?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely a struggle that I see with a lot of my clients, is that they cannot figure out how to niche themselves. They always will say, I'm multi-passionate though. I don't want to get myself in this tiny little lane. And then no one knows connect with me. And I'm like, that's where we want to be. That lane that you can find yourself in, that when you speak on it, you light up. That's where you need to be. Because otherwise, when you're trying to do all the things, you're not there. People don't know what to expect from you. They'll come to your site, and one time you're talking about fashion, and another time you're talking about your parenting, and then another time you're talking about a recipe that you made.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. And I think you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, was that it's not 2010 anymore. You can't blog or write content or be a business owner like it's 2010. You have to get niche and try to be able to stand in your uniqueness and be able to say what it is that you are the expert in.
Yeah. Well, and think about it this way too, is the more niche you go, the more you can charge. And this is not true for every situation, but the easier the work gets because you have one clear outcome. So when I had my old agency, we used to do this thing called demand marketing, where we did all the content marketing, social media, and PR for some big clients. So we had like contracts that were $25K a month, and we did all that. It's a lot of busy work. And we have some incredible case studies, but we can't do that on a $5,000 retainer. And I've tried and we just burnt out. So we stripped away the busy work and we focused on our core thing, which was pitching the media. We didn't advise on social media anymore. We didn't write their blog posts or content anymore. It was a one thing. And we introduced them to other people that could do the work. Our ROI was much harder, or higher. Our profit margins became much higher too, because we were just focusing on one core thing. You think about people like Amy Porterfield. She's the go-to person for email marketing. Marie Forleo for B School. Most of these people, if they did launch another product, was years after they really honed in on the one thing they're doing. Yes. And it's probably because they had enough demand from enough people to know that I have a good test pool to see if this thing's going to work. Oftentimes we'll launch a new program or write a new pitch or create something new because we don't think the thing's working without giving it enough time to see if it has sticky power. And also, most people don't need to be taught, they need to be reminded. And so you think about like the ads that keep popping up for me, I'm like, yeah, I know I've seen this a million times already before, but it's going to come a day where I'm going to need that thing and they're going to be the ones that I think about.
Yes.
The same goes with PR. The more you're focused on like the one or two things that you're promoting, the easier it is to get media coverage.
Yes, because when you hear that person on 6 different podcasts and the ads are coming up and it's coming up in the articles, it brings it back to you. We always tell people you have to see, or they have to hear, to actually see and hear about something 7 to 8 times before they're going to take any action. And I'm an example of this. I have been listening to Jasmine Star has been popping up for ads for me lately because she's running that launch, $200,000 launch that you can do or double your launch, whatever it is for revenue wise. And I happened to go and listen to a Lori Harder podcast, and I almost said a bad word. There's Jasmine Star talking about, and they're just having a conversation. And I'm like, oh, let me go listen to some of her episodes. Then all of a sudden I end up a rabbit hole listening to all her episodes. And guess who has signed up to do her masterclass to see what else is new? What am I missing?
Right there.
Yes.
And it's like, you'll see it too. All of a sudden you'll start seeing the same person on a bunch of podcasts.
Yes.
You know what? They're launching something. They have a book coming out, a program coming out. And there's just like that name keeps showing up. Like, what are they selling? Who is this person? You get interested, intrigued, and then you buy from them.
Yes, 100%. Okay, so you are obviously the go-to for PR. Because you have a proven email pitch strategies that you actually offer that is free for everyone to go and download. We're going to put it into our show notes. Everyone knows they can also send me a DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose, and I'm send you a direct link right to that. But tell us what we can expect to learn from the proven email pitch strategies.
Yeah. So it is not only actual pitches I've used to get media coverage, it is the system, the process to start pitching. So I give you a little taste of what it would be like to do your own PR. Because there's a lot of questions like, am I too early? When do I start? Who do I pitch? How do I do this? It's all there. So it's a good foundation to get started with PR. There's no fluff. I always hated philosophy in university and college. I love to get straight to the point. And so all my work just takes out the fluff and I give you all the good stuff so that you know you have the tools, you have the tactics, the strategy to get going. And that's probably one of the best freebies that I have on my site. I also have a do-it-yourself media kit, which people love as well. But if you follow me on social as well, I share a bunch of stuff about PR.
Excellent. So speaking of, where else can we connect with you?
Sweet. You can go to Instagram. I'm Renee_Warren. So it's RENEE_Warren. And my website, wewildwomen.com.
Excellent. We're going to link to that in the show notes. Renee, appreciate you so much for taking the time to speak with me and my audience. Your energy is invigorating and I just love being able to have conversations with you.
I appreciate that. I did get up early to be ready for this show. So I've got coffee in me. So this was good, Jenny. It has been such a pleasure hanging out with you these last couple days. And I want to tell you about you. What I loved it, we pitched you, you said yes, but then you said, but also can I be on her show? And here's what's important about this little reminder is that most of us are so afraid to ask. I can't tell you how many times we're just afraid, oh, well, maybe their show's bigger than mine, or maybe she's going to say no. Who cares? Ask, ask, ask. The other day, one of my friends wanted me to make an introduction to a notable CEO in the tech startup world who's a dear friend of ours. And I said, absolutely, because I know her, I like her. I made the introduction and he said yes to be a guest on her show, which he probably wouldn't have done any other way. And so don't be shy to ask for help or ask to be on somebody's show, and then just provide the best value. Show up and be the best version of yourself. It is a gift for the host, it's a gift for the media, and a gift for the audience.
100%. I love that you left them with that. Thank you so much. All right. Well, there you have it. Renee is clearly an expert when it comes to this. I love her arc that she talked about, those 3 ways that you can really make sure that you are making connection and building authority for your audience. You also are going to want to make sure that if you haven't already, to jump into the show notes and grab her proven email pitch strategies. You can see that there's tons of overlap when it comes to pitching brands. So some of this you're already going to have down, but she has the intricacies and the strategy that comes with it. So make sure that you go and grab those proven pitch strategies if you haven't. I appreciate you all so much for taking the time to listen in. If you haven't already left a rating and review, I would appreciate it if you just took a quick second, popped into your app, scrolled to the bottom, just left a rating and review, letting me know what it was about this episode that connected you best to it. Thank you guys so much. And as always, I will see you all next time.